Hello, Internet. I'm Chamomile.
And I am Requiem.
Requiem, I feel like, this is the fallout of that gift you gave me.
What? Chamomile, why would you think that this is my fault? When have I ever given you any reason to believe that this kind of thing could possibly be my fault? Don't mention Jade Empire. Or the Monkey's Paw. Or the Needful Things coupons.
You got me those flowers, and, I went to take a nap, and I woke up, and it had circled around my head, and I'm in your body all of a sudden.
Are you sure it's my body? How do you know? I mean, this could be anyone's body. Anyone could have body swapped you. I've also noticed a giant pile of ash outside. Did somebody burn down a mountain?
I mean, I feel like that was also probably your fault. Like, you told me at the end, after last episode, you're like, I'm just going to make a quick sacrifice to Moloch, the god of fire. And suddenly,
But you are confirming that someone did burn down a mountain. Not that I'm trying to confirm the success or failure of any occult rituals. I just want you to confirm for me whether or not a mountain burned down.
It did.
Okay, good. I mean bad. That's terrible.
Does Sora have little bat wings? Is
does.
Sora a vampire?
Sora is a motherfucking vampire.
Is this your favorite version of Sora?
I mean, probably. But I mean, surely you are the most excited for this.
Oh, right. You're into Donald because he's a mummy, and you're into mummies.
Obviously. I am into mummies, not werewolves. That's ridiculous. I don't even know why you brought it up.
I've told you, I like a good twink werewolf. Halloween is the best holiday, objectively.
Oh, yeah. People who like other holidays are wrong.
Actually, you know what? I want you to guess, because you're going to guess wrong. Because you're going to guess the vampires, and that's not correct.
Of course. The heartless need a heart.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that Jack Skellington would be your favorite monster from Nightmare Before Christmas, but maybe you could guess mine.
I think yours is I think I've got a pretty good guess. Yours is the clown with the tearaway face, here in a flash and gone without a trace.
I've completely lost track of where this bit is going. I'm not sure what level of meta we're on right now.
Hold on, I feel a metaphysical shift. I think I'm going back into my body. Oh, yep, we're back in our regular bodies.
Okay, thank God. That was getting hard to keep track of.
I was so confused. I'll figure out how to break that curse sooner or later. They put that whole magic seal around the state to keep me in, but I'm going to figure out a way out.
The state of Arkansas was created as a prison specifically for you.
Indeed.
I don't want to know who's in Mississippi. And I don't think he actually did Coraline, right? That was the best Tim Burton movie made by someone other than Tim Burton.
Yeah. He had nothing to do with Coraline. If I could sew, I would definitely go as the other mother for Halloween.
What exactly would you be sewing?
The dress.
Okay, good. You know, Triton is very believably abusive to Ariel in a way that, I find aggravating, whereas their relationship is, so... they're poisoning each other and locking each other in cages, and it's
it loops around.
Yeah, I guess this is what a rebellious teenager looks like in Halloween Town. Attempted murder. I kind of wonder if this game was made backwards. Like, they made the last worlds first, with maybe the exception of Destiny Islands or Traverse Town.
What makes you think that? Because of the outfits?
Yeah, because Halloween Town and Atlantica both have custom outfits. Wonderland had no Disney companion, whereas every other, every world in this second cluster does.
It's not just repeating the plot.
Yeah, and
it's like this is an event that could have happened in continuity.
Right. It's like this makes sense with the characters, it repeats the themes, but it keeps the plot focused on Kingdom Hearts, more unique setting elements. And it's also, because it is its own plot, it can actually develop at its own pace. And instead of trying to take a 90-minute movie and condense it down to 15 minutes of cutscenes, they just made a story that fits into 15 minutes. This is how we get the Heartless in our party. We're going to get an army of Heartless. This game is suddenly going to transition into being a real-time strategy game. And then our Heartless army is going to fight Riku's Heartless army.
I do feel a little bit bad for Michael Myers because he had to do the live action Cat in the Hat movie because of his contract, and that kind of killed his career because it was so bad. Yep. That's also what happened to Whoopi Goldberg. She had to do some movie because of contractual obligations, where she's like a cop and her partner is a velociraptor.
This movie must have been in the 90s.
Yes. You find out that Sora is the reincarnation of the original Keyblade wielder, and that Xehanort actually needs his heart in order to complete his scheme to become Xehanort.
I mean, again, you take these wild guesses where you just think of the dumbest thing you can, using proper nouns that you are dimly aware of, and you still get, 50, 60, 70% accurate.
And you still haven't told me when Venmo shows up. Like, is he in this game?
I mean, not by name, but he is, secretly, deeply embedded into the plot.
Okay.
In a way that is not revealed for several games. But with that said, you can tell that he was definitely intended to be there from the start. Like, if you go back looking through all the old games, after Venmo has been properly introduced, you can definitely see that this was a character who was always intended to be there, and definitely not the latest in an endless string of bizarre retcons.
Because I was thinking Santa is probably one of Mickey's agents. Like, he's probably like the head of the intelligence agency because he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. Like, Oogie Boogie is the good guy here. Like, I don't know why we're going to fight him. I think Goofy just fell to his death.
Yeah, once his trap runs out, I'm going to have to activate the section of the board facing him. Here we are, got him. And it'll raise me up, and then I will smack him around for a bit.
Seems like a poorly designed death trap on his part. So here, actually, I just had an interesting thought about Oogie Boogie. Oogie Boogie is a boogeyman, pretty obviously, but he's a bag, he's a sack, and usually boogeymen in different folklore a lot of the time the identifying feature is that they have a sack that they steal people in. In Haiti, you have Uncle Gunny sack. So that is like
right.
A little bit deeper than it seems. Like, that's why he's a sack, because he's a boogeyman. Yeah. Boogeymen they abduct children in their sacks, like Krampus. Krampus, because he's got the sack that he takes the bad children away in.
I mean, it's the etymology of the word nightmare, not just night and mare.
It is not. That is a false etymology.
I'd always kind of wondered how those two came to be associated.
Like that's one of those things where like we hear the word mare and you assume it has to do with a horse, but that's a separate etymology. Nightmare comes from the word mara, which was like a hag that would sit on your chest while you slept and crush you and thus cause nightmares. And you see a lot of creatures that do that have that M-A-R etymology. So in French, you have the cauchemar. You have sort of a vampire called a Moroi. You have Queen Mab, who's associated with nightmares. You have the Morrigan, who's the Phantom Queen. You have the Corrigans, which are Breton nightmare creatures. The Fomorians, who are the Irish monsters. They all come from the same etymology of sort of a hag, a nightmare creature. I've had it happen 3 times. One time it was an actual monster. One time it was Seth Rogen. And the other time it was one of the cats from the live-action Cats movie. That was probably the most terrifying version.
I would imagine so. I would not want that nightmare.
Sally, why didn't I listen to you?
Taylor Swift said she'd be the actress starring in our bad dreams, and she was right.
Hello, Internet. My name is Chamomile.
And I was Requiem.
So, this raises so many questions.
I appear to have passed on.
Ah.
Yep. Thankfully, it does appear that recording equipment is, in fact, part of the spirit world.
I just assumed you had possessed a mic.
I'm hoping I'll be able to figure out how to revive my body by the end of this recording. I guess I must have some sort of unfinished business. Is the podcast the unfinished business?
I mean, you better hope not, because we're actually getting pretty close to the end here.
Oh, man.
But yeah, if you happen to notice, you know, in like the Discord we use to coordinate this and stuff, some new potential co-hosts showing up, just don't even worry about it. I'm definitely not replacing you, just in case you pass on.
Maybe you're the one who killed me, and I'm going to torment you.
What? I wouldn't do that. That's crazy. You're crazy.
All right. While we're doing the podcast, I'm going to be investigating my murder scene.
I think the police can handle that. The police are a bastion of competence and investigative prowess, especially in Arkansas. Okay, looks like we got them all. What about you? You have any free stuff for me? Nah, get fucked then. So let's take a look at Gummy Design with some new parts.
Now, I assume you're going to make a completely logical and feasible ship design. Something very, like, aerodynamic. I mean, you need to submit this design to Tesla.
I'm cheating here because I'm pretty sure we've had this conversation off screen, but isn't he supposed to be like 6?
Yeah, it specifically says, it doesn't give his age, but it says that he still has all his baby teeth. And the general impression you get is that he's supposed to be very young. It's hard to tell in the game, but he looks at least to be as tall as Sora.
Yeah, he flies around everywhere, which makes it hard to keep track of exact size, but he's definitely not far off.
He is explicitly the shortest of the Lost Boys, and is about as tall as Wendy.
Wait, so he is about as tall as Wendy in the original?
Yes.
But, I mean, Wendy is the oldest of her. Isn't she? Is that different in the book?
Yeah.
So are the Lost Boys?
I would have to reread the first chapter, but she is. But, you know, it's also there's an element of, like, sort of Edwardian sexism to the book, where obviously the girl is going to be the shortest.
The girl is the shortest of... That's not how that works. They are children. Their height is going to be pretty reliably correlated to age.
childhood is being more and more protected and idealized, and Peter is sort of this ideal symbolization of this sort of childhood ideal in Edwardian England. There used to be some people who would say that the Victorians created the idea of childhood, and that was based on sort of the literary works, which mostly did not talk about children. But you get into the thing where most of the people writing for a significant portion of European history were not only were they men, they're exclusively men who were not supposed to have children because they were supposed to be celibate. So, of course, they were not writing about children, but as we've gotten into sort of like archaeological evidence, we've sort of seen that stuff like toys and stuff, that the Victorians did not invent childhood, they just sort of extended it and protected it.
I mean, it's a weird concept. People imagine the past as being absolutely bizarre sometimes, and I mean, I'll grant you that there have been moments in history where a specific culture has gone absolutely insane. But, as a general rule, people are people.
As we've learned the past couple years, those child safety laws in Hollywood should probably be significantly stricter.
They really, yeah, absolutely.
Like, to the point where I've honestly begun to question whether we should have child actors at all.
Yeah, I mean, and I do kind of wonder, like, I don't think this is an inevitability of having child actors. I think it's just Hollywood has had this kind of corruption in it, you know, the stories about the casting couch and such, like, going back to its founding, you have had casting directors abusing their power in this way.
Or
the fact that it's only
like,
drawn uglier over time is... I'm reasonably confident it is just an artifact of the fact that Hollywood specifically is terrible.
And has been for a long time.
Yeah, like since inception, like, you know, since the 1910s, 1920s.
It's not absolutely not a recent thing. If you look at like The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland, how she got treated, she was put on meth so she could have the energy to act, and so she would lose weight, and all the adult male actors treated her terribly because they were not happy about the fact that they're in a movie where the lead of a female child, the only person who was nice to her was the person playing the Wicked Witch. And this is going to seem like orthogonal to the problem, but I think breaking up the movie studios as much as possible so power is less concentrated in single person's hands.
Definitely, that always helps. More competition is always a good thing.
Because Harvey Weinstein, he was able to do what he did because he was so powerful in Hollywood, because it had gotten so consolidated that if you pissed off Harvey Weinstein, he can just he knows everybody, he can just blacklist you from the entire industry. The older you make Peter, the more a queer reading asserts itself, because you have a young man who is rejecting romances with women, who lives in a pretty homosocial environment, and is additionally sort of, because in pretty much every adaptation, even when he gets offered to come home with Wendy, he rejects it. He rejects the sort of conventional family and chooses to remain a boy forever, which has kind of been as a stereotype of gay men, that the gay lifestyle is sort of a rejection of adulthood.
We don't know how to pronounce a goddamn thing. We can spell it, though.
Even though it's not technically in the text, I do kind of like the queer reading of Peter Pan, partially because so J.M. Barrie was friends with a family of five, with 5 children, and Peter was based off of one of these children, Michael Davis, who was probably gay. We don't know for certain. We do know he drowned himself with one of his schoolmates in a pond, and one of the other schoolmates said that probably something was going on between the two. And we do know that one of his brothers, he had written correspondence with J.M. Barrie, and his brother burned most of them.
Thanks, Peter. Hey, don't mention it. You didn't think I'd leave you and Tink behind, did you?
Kind of. I mean, you're sort of irresponsible.
I did hear someone say that the male equivalent of a manic pixie dream girl is the depressed demon nightmare boy. So like the Phantom of the Opera. Should I be hearing stuff right now?
No. They did not have voice actors for Kid Riku and Kid Sora, so...
Okay. A little concerned. Just like everything went quiet, and I saw a white light, and I heard a voice beckoning me to go towards the light.
I mean, that voice was not part of the... I mean, my understanding was that we had at least until the end of this podcast before... Oh shit, was this specific episode the thing that is keeping you tied to this mortal realm? Like, not the whole series, just this one episode? Because we're about at the end of that.
I did so much prep work for Peter Pan, and now I've done it. And that's my unfinished business.
I mean, that means you've got like 2 minutes left.
All right. Then before I go, I have a confession to make.
I am filled with dread.
I'm the one who stole that $2 from you.
When we took the princess from his castle,
The what now?
The $2.
Did $2 get stolen from me?
Yes. You wanted to buy a soda and a snack, and you couldn't because I stole it from you. I didn't even want the money. I just kind of wanted to see you suffer.
Wasn't that like 8 months ago?
I mean, yes. But it's been weighing on me this entire time.
Just that?
Just that.
I feel like the good Christian thing to do would be to forgive you so that you can pass on.
Are you really going back to Neverland?
But I'm an
so glad
American
you forgive
capitalist,
me.
so I'm going to refuse you forgiveness in order to keep you bound to this mortal plane so that I can continue producing content with you in hopes of profiting from it. And since you
you
no longer have
monster.
living expenses, I am no longer under any obligation to give you a cut.
I do have unliving expenses. Could you at least burn me some hell money?
Hello, Internet. My name is Chamomile.
Cam, let me out.
Requiem, you got it. We're doing the show.
Cam.
Okay, we're gonna go again. All right. Hello, Internet. My name is Chamomile.
Somebody please get a necromancer to get me out of this spirit jar. Cam, I want to move on to the next side. I'm ready to go
I
on to
haven't
the other
found a
side.
replacement host for you yet, and I double-checked, and it turns out that ghosts have, like, no rights in the state of Utah. We are going to be doing Kingdom Hearts constantly, perpetually. We'll go through the entire series in order with no other games in between, since Requiem is no longer capable of protesting or threatening to leave the show. That is now the plan. And when we reach the end of the most recent release, we'll just go back to Kingdom Hearts 1 and start all over again until they come out with a new game.
Viewer, if you're listening, please call the Ghostbusters. Like, we didn't address this during the Peter Pan episode, so there's a Tarzan world, and there's a Peter Pan world that is both Neverland and Edwardian London.
Yeah, you go to the clock tower.
But Tarzan's also in Edwardian London, so those are separate worlds, but Neverland is part of Edwardian London. It raises a lot of questions.
In fairness, maybe Jane Porter came from Neverland, which has Edwardian London in it. But then if that's the case, isn't she, in violation of Mickey's dystopian regime? And that never gets brought up.
I guess we never see her again. Like, she might have been captured.
Disappeared. This is fairly trivial platforming. As much as Kingdom Hearts has had a problem with thinking it's a platformer when it's not, my problem here is definitely just I have suddenly had a stroke or something and cannot accomplish very simple, jump from platform to platform tasks. Which, by the way, I think it's super badass that Beast just willed himself to Hollow Bastion to save Belle.
There can't be two Keyblade Masters.
Why not?
What are you talking about?
This will later on turn out to be an absolute lie.
Master.
Not only can there be two Keyblade Masters, there are like 16. And
Go play hero with this.
where have you been keeping that this whole time?
and it is frequently both impersonal and horrific. And with the, from what I understand of the Heartless, because they don't really appear to be sapient or organized. They're under the control of sapient organized creatures, but they don't appear to be either of those things themselves. They're just sort of like a natural force that happens.
Yeah, we will occasionally see exceptions, but the vast majority of Heartless you come across are, apparently unthinking beings.
Basically a natural force. So they're basically the anime version of the planet, which actually puts them in the same category of something like Cthulhu. Because Cthulhu is both impersonal and horrific. It's the planet intruding, because it's this thing that we don't understand that is horrific and destructive to us, but may not even actually care about us in any meaningful sense.
But it is. They're dedicated to their own procreation, purely. Like, not just in the sense of being evolved creatures who, have some kind of procreative instinct on a species-wide scale, but in the sense that each and every one of them individually has exactly one motive, and that is to find creatures with hearts, take their hearts, and corrupt them into more heartless. That's not spelled out by the Anson report, but it's pretty clear from their behavior.
Like, Maleficent is basically like Herbert West or the guy in From Beyond. She is entangled with forces beyond her control, and I'm sure at some point it's going to backfire on her.
So here in Hollow Bastion, we are for the first time introducing what will turn out to be the game's main theme of the true nature of the human heart. Of, whether the darkness or the light is stronger in humanity.
I'm assuming Mickey is the final boss, and he does give this speech. Love is just the absurd reaction of chemicals in your brain. It is only an illusion. The only thing of value is power, Sora.
Alright, Donald, get the fuck out. You aren't a friend in my heart. As is proper for a protagonist, we have noticed that there is an unfinished chore, which is that someone has shelved the books in this library improperly. And so we are taking it upon ourselves to fix that.
But it's a library. You're not supposed to reshelve the books. They're doing statistical studies.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah. Do you know when you go to the library? Do you not see the little signs that say "Don't reshelve the books"?
So yeah, there's now an elevator. Let's just get back and forth, so I can collect some of these crest pieces. You can see we're in the Resident Evil school of home defense here. From that famous story of how Disney was brought in a business expert to, he gave them some examples of some vision statements, and Walt Disney, the company founder, of course, said, all these basically just come up, these basically all just boil down to embrace the darkness within yourself, and that has sort of been their unofficial corporate motto ever since. Hello, Internet. My name... Whoa! Fuck!
I'm free! I'm moving on! I can see the
Klaatu
lights!
Barata Nikto!
How did you learn that spell?
There was a coupon for the Necronomicon at Needful Things.
I never should have gotten you that. Ugh. What are you binding me into?
That is...
Is it an action figure? Is this a Sora action figure?
Excuse you, that is a Kingdom Hearts 3 Bring Arts Sora version 2, and it costs like $100, so stop complaining. If Fairy Tail crossover is like your actual pitch, then I think you don't want to have firm boundaries between the different fairy tales. You either want to find a way for them to coexist in the same world, or you want those boundaries to have just come down, and now they are intermixing all over the place.
Yeah, like, if you want to do different worlds, there needs to be bigger contrast than just fairy tale. Like, you need to have, like, wildly different, like, you'd have a sci-fi world, you'd have, like, a more Tolkien-esque fantasy world, then you'd have, like, an Neverland/Wonderland type fantasy world. You want bigger contrasts between the worlds than just, like, fairy tales.
The first 3 Disney worlds, Alice in Wonderland, Hercules, and Tarzan, really do seem like they're filling time, because we need some space between when Sora loses Riku and Kairi and when he encounters Riku again. Which is fair. We do need that space. But those worlds do feel like they were kind of slapped together at the end, just because space was needed. Like, the live-action remakes that it ushered in are a plague and a travesty.
Yeah.
But Maleficent itself was actually not a terrible idea. You know, a retelling of a classic from a new perspective. That's an actual new story.
I wish they had kept her evil. Like, I thought that would have been more interesting. Like, having her be essentially good the whole time
Right.
was a little boring in my opinion.
Yeah, there was... And I feel like this is a sort of a backwards Disney exerting its influence because of what the brand needs. Which is, you can't just have a villain story like, Joker style.
I do like how in the original fairy tale, she's very fey. She's just mad about being excluded from this party, so she curses everybody.
This is why no one invites you to parties, Maleficent.
There's a theory that it originated in India because that's where the spinning wheel was invented. So it might have been originally an Indian fairy tale.
I mean, okay, but India may have invented the spinning wheel, but why does that mean they must be the source of all fairy tales that feature them?
This Keyblade holds the power to unlock people's hearts.
So much for that only one Keyblade Master thing.
Yeah, that lasted all of 10 minutes. So originally, dragons were just big snakes. Over time, they've sort of added all these features. I think it's in Herodotus that the dragon he described is a big snake that kills elephants. Which is a large snake, but is not like nearly the size of what we think of as a dragon now. And also, it's just a big snake and doesn't have wings or anything. I don't know at what point wings
doesn't have claws,
legs,
doesn't breathe fire.
I don't know at what point wings and legs get added. I know there's some medieval images of dragons where they've got little wings and legs.
Yeah, it's definitely, by the end of the Middle Ages, we have firmly gotten the modern image of a dragon more or less set. I think the only major modern innovation since then has been the idea of dragons as having arbitrary magical powers beyond their fire breath and their ability to fly, despite the aerodynamics on that not working out at all.
Isn't that a relatively D&D thing anyways? I feel like most... Outside of D&D,
yeah, and even then it's not very common.
Fire.
And then the other thing is that dragons with breath weapons besides fire, which is, anyway, it's a D&D and derivatives thing, which does mean it's fairly common, but mainly in video games. Which even Chrono Cross is it's not a very D&D-like video game overall, but it does inherit from D&D the idea of dragons with different elemental alignments and different breath weapons.
And the inexplicable decision to use Vinking casting. You know what, I have an idea for this battle. I'm going to use it on this battle. And then when we need it on the other battle, I've got a backup idea we can use, so...
I mean, does it require my soul? Because again, I don't think that's on the table anymore.
I've already started the incantation. Zorgalax, he who waits behind us, the insatiable knight, lord of the quiet death, I invoke thee. Help us get through this battle, and in return, you can't have Chamomile's soul, because I guess somebody already has that, but you can just have his physical body, and you can do whatever you want with that. In return, all I ask is that you help us beat this video game battle.
So does he still get credit if we beat it? Like what? In what form does the assistance come here?
I mean, I was never really clear on that end.
I feel like we've just received a hard no.
All right, Zorgalax, you can have his soul.
Become darkness itself.
I mean, but it's on Zorglax to, sort that out with everyone else who has a claim on it. Like, I just want that stated up front. So how are we liking this cutscene on the 5th viewing? Getting better every time?
I really wish you would break this action figure so I could move on to the next side and not watch this.
I mean, but then I'd be alone with it.
You could just stop playing anytime,
What? Give up on something?
That's true. Our viewers have gotten a little bit about all that led up to this, with the not just Jade Empire, but Arkham Horror, and then before that, did we talk about all the stuff that came before that?
I don't think so. I do think I briefly mentioned that Arkham Horror was only one of many iterations of this show, which has just gone through so many different versions as we tried to figure out what we could do with the resources available to us. It's like, okay, what do we got? We have 2 guys, an internet connection, some decent microphones, and several horrific occult entities available to be summoned, for as long as we can keep them satisfied.
Like, we were gonna do King's Landing with some people, but everybody dropped out.
King's Dilemma is
King's Dilemma. We thought about trying to, make a fiction podcast, but we were never able to hammer anything out.
Yeah, the main drawback on that one was, with only 2 actors, it kind of drastically constrained what was available. We were going to do... It wasn't actually going to be D&D, but a D&D style actual play thing. But, that one actually got sabotaged by audio issues.
Do you need some help?
And then one of the people involved dropped out, and with only 3, there wasn't really enough.
Yes, a keyblade. But unlike yours,
Like, we started with 5 people, and then we just constantly bled them.
to unlock people's hearts. Allow me to demonstrate.
In those people's defenses, one of them was in Hong Kong, the person was in Australia, so they were having to get up pretty early.
5th guy has no excuse, though.
Yeah.
Become darkness itself.
It's also, justified or not, my primary motivation for making this work is now to, so that they will go the rest of their life knowing that they were almost a part of a famous and ludicrously profitable online presence.
Our one viewer is very, very wealthy.